Hello, and welcome to the 25th episode of the 10th Divine Podcast. This is a show about Elder Scrolls Online, and I am your host, Shanty, and I am here with my amazing co-host, Raven. How are you doing this week?
Well, it's been a very interesting week in the office. I can't talk about details on something like this, but it's been pretty wild. So I've been at work a lot, and yeah, it's been a thing. Can't say anything, but it's been a thing. I'm
Hopefully not too many evenings going to 9 o'clock like you've done a lot recently.
Yeah, not so many. Not so many. There's a lot of stuff up in the air at the moment, so there's actually quite a lot of stuff we can't really do at work at the moment. Happily, everybody has got next week off, so the whole organisation is having a well-being week next week. So we've sent everybody home. We're all going on holiday, and it's going to be very interesting when I get back on the 5th of June. Unfortunately, it's going to be very interesting from the 5th of June for the whole of that week, where there might be something happening in ESO that I might have wanted to be doing. So, sure. It's possible that there might be some 9 p.m. Finishes that week, which will be extremely inconvenient, and I'm very annoyed about it. But never mind. Never mind. How are you doing?
Hanging in there. We'll talk about this more on the next episode, but I just recently had some rough news, and it's just taken things out of whack. But at least at work, we had our Asian American Pacific Islander celebration on for the Asian American Pacific Islander Appreciation Month, and I ate so much food Friday morning during our shift. It was fantastic.
Nice.
And I still have a gigantic stack of almond cookies sitting in the kitchen now.
Oh, nice. But good thing. Yep.
As ever, we are not on our own. We are very excited to have our friend of the show, Locke, back.
Hello. It's really wonderful to be back.
Yeah, welcome back.
And how are you doing this morning?
Doing all right. Trying to get moving. Same as any morning, but I'm really happy to be here. It's a great start to the day.
Yes, thank you for getting up so early to come and chat with us. We do appreciate it so much.
Anytime.
So, with things having been interesting, have you had a chance to play any ESO lately?
Yeah, luckily.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, yeah. Set up behind me is not as colorful as normal. I just recently moved. A lot of moving, a lot of schmoving, a lot of unpacking, taking care of the dog. So I have been playing Elder Scrolls. Finally, back to actually being able to play, being able to stream, and all that. So got to enjoy a decent amount of White Strikes Mayhem. Now I'm enjoying the One More Housing contest. So jumping back in with both feet after a couple weeks away.
And you, Raven?
Yeah, no, I did. I have been doing some bits and pieces, obviously keeping the writs and everything ticking over. But I did manage to get out with the Law Seekers again last weekend for another trial, which it would be really helpful if I could remember the name of it. It's the one you have to take 12 people to because everybody has to stand on a pressure plate. There's a funny mage person. I cannot remember what it's called. Something beginning with A. Anyway, that was what we did, and it was really good. We actually at one point only had 11 people, so the raid leader had to go and log in his second account, which was on a computer that was in a different room. So there was a certain amount of faffing about with the pressure plates. We lined everybody up, and then he was like, "Right, I'll be back in a second," and had to literally run to a different room and then go and get his other character, and move that character onto that pressure plate, and it was like.
Haven't done trials in a while though. That's a Ethereal Archive though, right?
Yeah, that's where
one
it
of the
is.
earlier one of the Craiglorn trials.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
it's been a while since I've been in trials.
Yeah, no, that's what it was. It was good fun. So never. I think we're possibly going to do the other Craiglorn, one of the other Craiglorn trials in next month. But it's good just to do a little bit of normal trial content. Also done a few dungeons. I still haven't done the new dungeons. I meant to do something on Thursday, but I was working late on Thursday. and then I fell asleep. So that was unfortunate. But yeah, just bits and pieces. I really, really need to spend some time clearing out the master writs because I'm running out of bag space. And I went to go and put a load in my bank the other day, and I'm also running out of bank space. So I really need to go and do something about that. That should be that should be a thing that I do before Necrom drops. But I'm on holiday and I'm not at home for most of next week. So whether it'll get done or not, I don't know. We'll find out. But yeah. How about yourself? Have you got in game at all recently?
Not too much. Just doing the daily writs a little bit here and there. Not even every day lately. I've been spending a lot more time in Warcraft because a heavy situation, and I needed to go back to the familiar, the extremely familiar. So that's been a bit more of the routine lately. Is a lot more Warcraft, unfortunately less ESO.
No, that's fair. There's a lot of good new content in WoW at the moment. So we've got our new little Niffin people in the big cavern.
I need to eventually unlock that stuff. I've been working on old expansion stuff because I do have 10 years where I wasn't playing. So
yes, okay. Catching up on the old stuff.
Catching up on the old stuff, doing a little bit of looking at data for Azeroth, going, how can I up this completion score and all that kind of stuff.
Okay. Yeah, I've been doing some of the new stuff in WoW, trying to get a little bit back into the sort of routine of keeping up with the sort of new stuff. So I've got to, when I finish here today, I'm going to go in and do this week's sort of weeklies in the new content, and I'm really enjoying it. I think it's really good. We went into the new raid in WoW on Wednesday and got one of the bosses down, which is really good. Obviously, the raids in WoW are very different from trials in ESO.
Yes,
so
yes, they are.
Interesting to see the sort of the compare and contrast. But yeah, there's a lot going on over in Azeroth at the moment. If people are Azerothian inclined.
I know this is an ESO podcast, but I've been watching a bunch of clips on it. It seems like hardcore mania sweeping the nation on Classic. I'm seeing a lot of hardcore permadeath play over there on WoW. That's probably piqued my interest for the first time in a decade for World of Warcraft.
Yeah, so the Classic community have just instigated a new hardcore mode thing that's all very community driven. We were talking on my other podcast. I had the honor of talking to Holly Longdale, who is executive producer at Blizzard Entertainment, a little bit about this a couple of weeks ago. And yeah, so it's all very community driven. It seems to be really, really, really kicking it off over there. Seems to be a lot of interest in Classic on the hard.
Yeah, not to derail from the subject matter. I just thought it was really interesting. Anytime I see something interesting in another MMO, I always like perk up a little bit because I just like to keep what's going on in the various communities, because the MMO is kind of a big community with a lot of crossover. So
yeah.
Oh, yeah, that actually, thanks for the nod in the chat room, Alex. The prologue quest for Necrom is the one thing I have also done. So I have met Hermaeus Mora. I have set myself up for Necrom. It does now look like my...
That's actually on my docket for this evening, is to go and knock that out before Necrom drops.
Yeah, it didn't take very long. It was quite a nice. I thought it was quite a nice little short piece of questing. It didn't take very long, but I thought it was quite a nice little introduction. So yeah, I did manage to knock that out. After I'd remember where you find prologue quests, I just I'm so like I've been spending so much time in WoW recently that when it's not like in my quest log and like on my map, I'm like, oh, how do I? Oh no, you have to go and get it from the shop. Yeah, I remember. Like, even though we've already bought it, you have to go and click on it so that it comes up. It's weird. But yeah, I remember how to make it go, and I did that. So that's another thing I have done, actually, in ESO.
Okay, so let's go ahead and dive into the interview proper here. Locke, can you give our listeners a quick reminder of all the things you do in the ESO space?
That's quite the list. A little bit of everything. I've called myself the hardcore casual to a certain extent in the last couple of years since I've actually been streaming. Sorry, a kitty there. ESO. I like to do dungeons. I like to do vet dungeons. I do a lot of fashion. I run fashion shows, fashion contests monthly. I love delving into the housing aspects, a lot of PvE. And recently I've actually picked up the old PvP bug. So I'd say I do a lot of bit of everything and nothing except for probably fashion super well. So hardcore hours, but at a casual play, basically.
Fantastic.
I'm a fan of that kind of dynamic.
Yeah, a little bit of everything. That's definitely what we're all about over here. So it's nearly Pride. I don't know what happened to the first half of the year. I don't actually understand
It's gone.
how it's nearly Pride, but it's nearly Pride. June is nearly upon us, so we're very excited to chat to you today about ESO Pride. What were some of the highlights from last year's event for you?
The whole thing last year was basically a highlight. I'll call it a couple pieces of it, but mainly just because it was something like, I want this to happen. ZeniMax is very supportive of the LGBTQI community. The game is very inclusive, but also they launch their biggest piece of content every year in June. So obviously they can't do anything for Pride themselves. What they can do is a massive amount of promotion support to the community. So I kind of took that on my shoulders to organize last year. It went so well. We're doing it again this year. The big highlights, I would say, are definitely the parades, though, because the contests are fun, showcasing houses, talking about all the things in the game, showcasing the inclusive guilds. That's all great. But at the end of the day, having 150, 200 people, enough people that we crashed Auradon, so we have to actually have multiple parade starts this year. Like, people couldn't log in. People got kicked out when we're at the parade start, and they actually couldn't log in until the parade started because there was just so many people. We stress tested the zone, and it's around 200 people. But seeing that many people, whether it be people who are queer, people who are part of that community, or just allies, just people out to support, like, there was like the couple naysayer, angry people in zone chat, but that was like 2 or 3 people. There's like one angry person along the parade route on EU just standing off all in black. I'm like, well, you're wasting your day while we're having a celebration. But
yeah,
that's the thing, though. 200 plus people on NA, 150 people on EU, and maybe less than I can count, less people than my 10 digis on my fingers were actually like negative. That just kind of shows to me how much support is in the space, because you can see things on Twitter, you can see things in the news, you can see all these things where people are anonymous and negative, but in the actual community, in the actual game, the highlight was seeing just like how it is literally like 99% of the people who are supportive there with it, happy to have it there, and it's just this tiny minute portion of the community that's actually like as dark and negative, because you'd think it would be a much bigger percentage if you look at like Twitter, right? So I think that was the huge highlight, is being able to show people in the game, and that goes for like any game, is like the actual people at the thing are almost always more positive than a couple buddy-duddies online. So I think that was huge, just seeing the sheer level of support. I think almost every streamer in the category, even if they weren't doing stuff with Pride, came to the parade. They were streaming it, they were showing it. So that just meant like if you clicked on the category, you would see like 80% of the category streamers had little Pride flags up and were watching the parade. Like, that was just a huge showing of support. That was tremendous.
Yeah, amazing.
That is fantastic. So if I recall correctly, last year was the first ESO Pride. So what lessons were you able to learn to help plan this year's event?
I always want to be careful when I say it was the first kind of ESO Pride where I took it upon myself to work with Zos and the community to bring people together. Not the first ESO Pride. A lot of amazing guilds. I always want to shout that out. A lot of guilds have done Pride events within their guilds and things like that over the years. This was just kind of like the first big organized effort to bring that all into one place and bring a lot of extra attention to it. So I do want to give the heads up to all of the guilds and all of the like people who kind of laid the foundation that made that possible. But the first big lesson, multiple streamers that can take different parade start points, so that if we say crash at Auradon, we have another group coming from there. That way we can have the massive parade, but also make sure everybody can take part. That was a big one. The second big lesson was just a matter of you had to run it once. I come from an event running background, and the big thing was, I think this will be good. I know it'll do well. I have the connection with ZeniMax, have a good relationship with them. I can reach out to Gina, see what they'll do to support. but I didn't want to like bring on a whole big team of people and get every single person I could think of involved, because if it fell flat, I kind of wanted to make sure it just fell flat on my shoulders. Knowing now how successful, how well received it is, it's been easier, and we're going to be doing a lot more of that here the next week, to reach out to guilds ahead of time, to reach out to streamers ahead of time. It's a lot more easy to organize ahead of time, because I'm not saying, hey, I think this will be great and work. I can go, this was amazing, come be part of it. So it's just a lot easier to bring people in, knowing that I'm not asking them to give up a bunch of like time and effort for something that might fall flat, because there is always that kind of nudge in the back of your head once the first time it's something that it might fall flat. So I think that's the big lesson learned, is being able to bring more people on early to be involved.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. How far out did you start planning for this year's event?
I've been doing a lot of planning on my end since last month. So I really kicked it off in April. Obviously, I moved house and a lot of things here in May that I would have liked to use more for organizing, but now we're getting organizing. That's other things. It's like I'm creating a year-round ESO Pride server, or just inclusive for allies, for LGBT people, because there's been things that have happened to us all, hate raids and stuff, where I realize not everybody has a support network, and this is a way for people to have that support network to communicate throughout the year, and hopefully just create a space year-round for guilds who are doing queer-related events outside of the month of June to promote those events. So we're going to get that going here this weekend, and then really kind of get into the whole, like, what are people going to do, and really start buckling down and planning, starting that week between like now and Necrom. Once we have the official dates, we have to work with ZOS, because obviously they have a huge promotional month to kind of work out exactly where it kind of fits into the calendar, so that they can put that same level of promotional muscle behind it again this year.
Yeah, well, definitely keep us in the loop about all of that.
Definitely. So, obviously, as you referred to, ZOS is extremely busy this time of year, with the chapter coming out in just over a week. Anyway, but how helpful have they managed to be despite that?
Super helpful. Like I said, last year I reached out, shot for the moon, in terms of, I said, hey, Gina, this is what I want to do. Because I always reach out to Gina first. She's the NA community manager, obviously, first kind of point of connection, so she can talk to various teams. She said, well, what would you want? I said, here's kind of a list of like what I'd love, but anything would be great. ZOS came back with more. Like, I didn't ask to have Pride featured in the launcher the day of Pride. I didn't ask for them to promote it on the website, things like that, but they took it on that. So since I knew this was going to happen, I've already been in contact with Gina. Obviously, Gina's super busy with a million different things going on with Necrom and stuff. But obviously, she's amazing, super communicative. We're talking. I talked a little bit in ESO Vegas about it. We're just kind of getting the ball running. So ZOS has been really supportive. It's just all about finding the dates. Like I worked with Dom, who does like the press releases last year, to get out the perfect press release, things like that. So they're super supportive. Generally, I communicate what we would need or what would work. Gina talks to the teams, kind of comes back to me with what they can do. And like I said, it's always been like super amazing. And that just kind of goes for the way the ESO community works. You'll see a lot of charity events throughout the year, a lot of community events, housing events, things like that. And you notice very often ZOS is offering some level of promotion, support, tweet reboosting. And that's just because as a company, they're very proactive to support the community where they can, as long as people are willing to kind of put in the work, reach out and communicate. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, Gina is super, super, super supportive, and just an absolute
I'm still over the moon that she graced us on our first episode.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly. It's not a lot of companies and games you'd find. A lot of companies kind of would look at like, well, how many followers do you already have on Twitter? How many viewers you already have? And the fact is, like you said, you reached out for your first episode. I reached out when I was smaller and just kind of starting out as a streamer, and she came on my podcast. And it's just, again, they can't do everything. They're not superhuman, but the level of support that Gina and the whole community team, it's just Gina's the direct point of contact for my region, but every single member of that community team is Gina, Jess, and all of them are like amazing folks who go I think above and beyond for the community.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. But we are going to take just a quick moment to remind you that this show is part of Bonus Roll Productions. You You can find our show and lots of other great MMO-focused podcasts, such as Technically PvP, For Azeroth, and Girls Gone WoW over at bonusroll.gg.
So, when is the Pride Parade gonna be this year, and how can people get involved if they want to come along?
I cannot officially say any dates. I have tentative dates that I would like to work, but I would be remiss if I stated dates before I again got the
Fair.
kind of go ahead for what Zos could do. I would say expect late June, right? Necrom drops on the 5th for PC. It drops on the 20th for consoles. There's still a full weekend after it releases on consoles. So I would expect late June. That's what we're aiming for, but I can't give concrete dates yet. However, as far as being involved, I will be posting on Twitter at Loctavian00 about the Pride Discord, ESO Pride Discord server. You can also just DM me on Discord, Lock1982, or LockPound1982, wherever you want to reach out, and we can already start talking. But once that server's up, that's when we can really start organizing like events, charities, and things we want to do, and kind of like planning more things. But if you're a guild leader, an artist, a streamer, anybody who just wants to be involved on any level, you can just already reach out to me, or just stay tuned on Twitter over the next week. There'll be a lot of tweets coming out about it.
Cool.
So in addition to the parade, it sounds like there are other events being planned.
Yeah, so last year we did a small housing contest because there is massive housing contests. So we generally just, when I say small, I mean people use small houses for Pride houses. So we're going to do another screenshot contest. We're going to do another art contest. There's a lot of amazing artists in the community. We're going to do another housing contest. We're going to do the parades. There's a couple other things that we're planning that are kind of special and different this year. I did streams last year showing the inclusivity of the game. We're going to do stuff like that again. I'm going to be talking to some people in the community. I haven't had a chance to talk to him yet, so I don't want to name drop, but I'll name drop because he's a friend. I'm going to try to see if Payne can, something to do in Final Fantasy are dances. And the way they do it is somebody is streaming music on their Twitch channel.
Right.
And everybody just knows, hey, tune into that channel if you want to hear the music we're all listening to, but you're dancing at a location, house, or whatever in the game. And I want to organize some things kind of after party like that with some streamers if I'm able to. So can definitely expect housing, fashion, art, the parades, fundraising for LGBTQI plus charities. There's a couple we're looking at. We did the Trevor Project last year, but there's a couple other amazing charities out there who do tremendous work for the community. So we're kind of like narrowing it down. So fundraising and basically all of that, just anything we can do to promote inclusivity. I want to hopefully feature more known inclusive guilds this year. So people who are newer or just haven't been able to find that inclusive space or be able to make that connection with those type of guilds in the game and find those communities too, which I wanted to do last year, but just didn't have the time to get organized.
Yeah, that sounds like something that does take quite a lot of making contact with people and finding out where those people are. That sounds quite time consuming, but amazing. Yeah. Great resource. So obviously you can't all do this all on your own, as you were saying earlier. What other creators are you working with at the moment to make all this happen?
No one quite yet, but a lot of people have already expressed interest. So there's a lot of people who either want to help with fundraising or they want to help with streaming. A lot of creators who were involved last year. So right now, like we're just kind of moving from that planning phase where it's just been mostly like me getting everything set up, contacting a lot of people into the like getting people involved phase. But there's already a ton of different streamers and people who have already reached out. So it'll be a lot of people like last year. I think we had like 14 people last year, which is all supplied with torch mugs and stuff for giveaways, helping raise money for charities. I have reached out to a couple guilds. I still need to reach out to a couple more. So reaching out to basically a lot of people. And I think anybody who wants to be involved, I'm going to try to get involved as we kind of move from, again, that solo initial planning phase. As soon as I just get a couple little more pieces of information kind of locked down with Zos, that way when I bring people on, I have the full amount of information to be able to give them.
Cool.
Sounds awesome.
And I also just want to say, if you are a creator, again, I think I might have already said this, but if you want, just again, reach out. If you want to be involved, there's plenty of ways that people can be involved at all sorts of levels.
Awesome.
Excellent. So which one thing for Pride are you most looking forward to?
ADHD doesn't like make brain. It's hard to narrow. Hard to narrow. To be honest, the thing I'm most looking forward to is spending time with the community. I think the parade, to me, the biggest part of Pride, the biggest thing I love doing at Pride in my own city, when I go to the Pride parades in my own city, when I go to Pride in ESO or in any game, is the parade. It's seeing the massive group of people together in one space, all coming together for a common positive showing as a community. So I think all the other things we're doing are amazing, but the parades have to be probably to me, the biggest part, because that's like that's the fireworks display at Independence Day. That's the like big feast at the end of a campaign or whatever. It's like that's the big like showing of everybody coming together in one place. And I think that's the parades are probably the thing I'm the most looking forward to.
Yeah, it is an amazing feeling to be hanging out with so many other queer people, either virtually or in real life, and just having a great time. It's always an amazing feeling.
Absolutely.
Obviously, the reality is that there is often backlash against Pride events. So, what measures are you taking to ensure safety for people who are coming along? Although it sounds like you did really well last year.
So luckily, I do have a background. Like I said, I used to run comic and anime events. I've worked in the tech space. I worked in theater. I have a background of advocacy. So I have kind of a lot of mechanisms already built up to deal with it. And then thanks to streaming on Twitch, I've dealt with hate raids, doxing, swatting, stalking, you name it. I've dealt with it. But due to that, I've kind of have built up a lot of things that I can share with other people. The main backlash, however, based on last year, and I know a lot of things, if you look at the news in the States, are ramping up. A lot of the backlash is on Twitter. And the trick with Twitter is to just be professional. Remember, most of these accounts have 0 followers, 12 accounts followed, and were created 2 days ago. So the main way I deal with at least the Twitter, which was the biggest backlash last year, is I ignore it. It can be hard. I ignore it. I encourage other people not to engage with it. I block the accounts, and I just keep putting the positive efforts out in the world. If people are dinks in zone chat, I remind everybody, hey, block that person. Everybody report that person if they're saying something too egregious. Ignore them. It's just kind of staying calm and professional to remind others who may not have gone through the same sort of backlash in their lives or have the same kind of support network or skill set built up, and being there. For me, it's more important to be there for them, so that if paying attention when a smaller streamer who is maybe raising money for Pride, if they get attacked, being able to jump in, help with that situation, be able to remind people to focus on positivity. That's always kind of how I've handled the situations the best I can, unless push really comes to shove, where I have to say, hey, stop it, which I'm very willing to do. So really the way to handle backlash, I find, is to have the support network, have people to lean on, make sure everybody's briefed and aware. So if things happen, people can respond quickly, be they mods, other streamers, etc. Just kind of show support. That's what got me through the hate raids, and that's what I think gets us through those negative times. But again, for the most part, it's really positive. So it's not letting that small percentage of people drag down the massively positive energy that's being put out into the world.
Yeah, it's good. Twitch have finally got the kind of shield mode thing.
They also do have a lot better moderation features than they used to have. ZeniMax also updated their terms of service at the start of this year, which means they have more proactive things in their terms of agreements to actually punish people who do negative stuff, not just in the game. It used to be that terms of service said, hey, if it doesn't happen in the game, can't really do much. The terms of service is actually updated at the start of the year, so there's a lot more ability to be proactive if you see sort of negatives, to report and then let their teams deal with it, not engage, not let people drag it down. So it's a lot. They put a lot more protections in place as well to protect the ESO community, which is great.
Yeah, that is really good. That is really good. It's always when dealing with Twitter, you always need to be aware that it really is a very small number of people that are coming for you, but they're often coming from multiple accounts, so it feels like it's hundreds. But actually, some analysis done by at least one household name queer charity in the UK, when they were under serious kind of cyber attacks, was that like actually the attacks were all coming from maybe 10 or 12 separate IP addresses. So they were getting hundreds thousands of responses and attacks from people, but it was actually just literally 12 IP addresses. That was
virtual machines, botting, spoofing, etc. All very easily accessible nowadays. However, just as another point of note is I'm also a very tenacious person without being very public about it, but I can be public about certain things. From initial hate rate stuff that resulted in doxing and sweating illegal things, a number of arrests were eventually made. And in one of the arrest cases, it turns out the person was operating about 17 different accounts that were coming at me were all connected back to that one person. Exactly. It's very easy to spoof a bunch of SOC accounts and things like that. So that reminder that is, when you look at it in real life, when you look at it in the game, it's a much smaller percentage of people than it feels like on Twitter, where the extreme viewpoints seem to take precedence because they get engaged with, and so they get pushed. Now you can buy Twitter Blue and you can get your stupid comments further up the list and things like that. I'm not getting into the whole landscape of Twitter Blue. I had to buy it recently to make a bigger post, but at the same time, you just got to remember that Twitter is Twitter, and the actual in-game community is not reflective of what Twitter feels like.
For sure. Definitely.
So, for a little bit of a lighter note to wrap up. So, what is the best queer story in game?
That can be a relatively difficult question. The easy answer is 2018 Somerset's Alchemy story. Alchemy is the main character. It's the character we've seen crop back up in Blackwood. Their story is amazing. It is a very well-written trans story. It was so written, it actually won a GLAAD award for the story writing on that trans story. So that's kind of the easiest one to point to because it is this big trans supportive story. So it's easy to say that's probably the most I wouldn't necessarily maybe say the best, but it is the most impactful. For me, I find the cute coming of age, figuring out the person you think is into you, but they're not really into you, but it's not like this massive ordeal that is Isabel, one of the last chapter's companions. 4-part quest chain does involve like her love of a character who doesn't love her back in the same way, but kind of like both growing up, becoming friends. And I think that story to me just also resonates true because doesn't have to be like, it's important to have those big, important trans stories. Like with Alchemy, it's important to have those kind of smaller stories where the queer romance is not like, the point of the story is not that Isabel is gay and that her friend doesn't like her back in the same way. That's not the point of the story. The story is just it's normalized. Nobody goes, oh my God, I can't believe you're gay. It's just a normalized thing. Which is like, this isn't a story in the game, but if you go to Fargrave, the innkeeper in Fargrave gushes about his recent marriage to his husband. You go to the other room, you see the werewolf haircut, you realize he's a werewolf. He's like, oh my God, is my husband talking about our marriage again? It's just a cute, normal gay. Again, the coolest part isn't a single quest. It's the normalization between the impactful trans story of Alchemy to just the normalized gay romance of this innkeeper and his werewolf husband who happen to live in Fargrave. And I think that's the best queer story, is the overall acceptance and normalization of queerness in the game, because that's what Pride is about, right? Pride is not about being above straight people. It's not about, I think it's about making people aware, and it's eventually about hopefully fighting for a level of equality where if somebody is gay, if they are straight, if they are trans, if they are bi, if they are aromantic, asexual, it does not matter. It's just a normalized part of society. That's like the fight to get to that. So seeing that in the game, I think, is overall the more important story than any single story in the game.
Yeah, 100%. Totally agree with that. What system or feature from another game would you like to see ESO borrow, steal, implement?
I mean, it's fine. I think MMOs should steal from each other. I think the fact that WoW is no longer the king, god emperor of MMOs, in which all MMOs have to innately try to copy it and then eventually do their own thing, is good for overall, because the more MMOs that do well, the better it is for us as MMO players. Because even if it's not an MMO you're going to play, it forces the MMO you play to work harder. So I think it's important to steal from each other. Top 3 things that I would flat steal from other games for ESO. I've mentioned before. I think Final Fantasy's Sprout mentor overall system, while it does have some bad parts, is ultimately good. Being able to flag and say, hey, I'm new, and have other players look and see that little thing above that person's head in Final Fantasy, that they can turn off if they want, that says, hey, they're new. Not everybody has to help them because they're new, but the people who want to help can very easily find the new player because they see a sprout. The number of people who came up to me in Final Fantasy because a little sprout above my head was huge, because the people who want to help new players are more easily able to find new players. I would wholesale this. I don't care what you call it. I would steal that. I think the second thing that I would steal from another MMO is just, I think, a revamped guild thing, something that makes it easier. Nephis and the people at ESOU just did an amazing thing. They have an amazing thing, but again, it's third party that had to put it together. I think something in game that would help people more easily find tags and find guilds. That way they could more quickly find groups would be amazing. But I also see things in games like Lost Ark, completely different game. However, the fact that things you do get you like little bonuses, same with Final Fantasy, just little bonuses, things that make it important to work together as a guild would be a really cool, just a revamping of the guild system. I think would be really cool for ESO. And then the last thing that I would just kind of yoink from other MMOs is something that I really do see them doing at Necrom, which is great, which is more in-game incentives. Obviously, it's a business. They have to make money with the cash shop. But something, again, if they're doing this with Necrom, if you complete the main storyline, you get a really cool mount. There's the first time questing, not the hardest content in the game, can earn you a mount. In ESO, I think incentives don't reduce the money a company can make from their cash shop, but what it does do is get more people involved with more content. So I would increase the number kind of incentives. And just to reverse the question, something that all games should steal from ESO is spending just a ton of money on voice acting and voice act all of your content. Because every time I go to another MMO, it throws me off. I'm like, oh yeah, I have to read.
Yeah, you have to do reading now. Yeah.
So I would take that from ESO and I give it to everyone else. It goes both ways. Things I would Frankenstein off of MMOs, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And like you mentioned, having in-game incentives is just fantastic. You look at the mount farming in WoW, in Final Fantasy, in all these other MMOs, and it keeps players engaged. It keeps players wanting to play the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I do want to give props where props are due, because for the first time in a lot of chapters, the sheer amount of earnables and incentives in Necrom is it's not perfect by any means, but it's a huge step in a direction that does make it feel like the community has been kind of listened to in that regard. I think it's a step in the right direction.
Yes, I was actually at one of your streams when you were looking at a whole different bunch of those. It was fantastic. Yeah. And finally, instead of our signature "Why is AD the best faction?" question,
for the Queen, but
anyway, Queen. Yep.
Who is the best faction leader and why?
Isn't that the same question? Queen Irene has the best faction. They did the whole revamp. We saw all of the technically because of voice actor stuff, we saw one of the faction leaders' sons, but we saw them each in their like brand new, like, can't wait till they release that for us in game, like Almir, Dominion, Daggerfall, Covenant, and Ebonheart Pact gear. One, the Queen's fashion is as always on point. Two, the Altmer are a very xenophobic people. Obviously, if you look at the lore of Elder Scrolls Online, it gives way to worse and worse things by the time we get to the Fourth Age. However, she as Queen is very open and supportive and trying to break xenophobic ways, which is awesome to see a leader who is in the controlling majority, privileged majority, trying to break that kind of xenophobic mold. And AD is the best faction, so obviously Queen Irene is the best faction leader, hands down.
Get cool.
Same question. Awesome. Different way to ask it.
Not necessarily. I mean, some people may just absolutely loathe AD because of what eventually happens with Skyrim and everything, but think Queen Irene is still just the best leader.
Yeah, but Queen Irene's gone by the time of by Fourth Era. Queen Irene's gone. So, but for now she's pretty great. If I had to choose one of the other two faction, I'm going to pick Emmerich Daggerfall Covenant over Sorry Pact over Yoran. I just think he's the second coolest. I also just feel like Ebonheart Pact's a very, very fractured faction compared to the other two. They're all fractured in their own way, but I feel like they're the most fractured. But I can't say he's the best faction leader when his own faction is severely barely held on by a thread, even more so than the other two.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. Can you let our listeners know where they can find you?
You can find me streaming most days of the week on twitch.tv/lock. That's LOCKE. I'm also on Twitter and Instagram as @Loctavian00. And you can also find me on YouTube at youtube.com/lock. LOCKE.
Excellent. Thanks for tuning into the show. If you've enjoyed it, please let other people know and give a review wherever you're listening to us. Rating and reviewing the show will help other people find it. You can also give us a review over at the Bonus Roll podcast directory. Go to bonusroll.gg/directory to find it. If you want to get in touch with the show, you can find us on Twitter at 10th Divine Pod, or you can email us at 10thdivinepodcast@gmail.com.
If you want to find us in other places, you can find me, Raven, over at Girls Gone WoW if you're a World of Warcraft fan. And actually, if you're a World of Warcraft Pride fan, we're talking to somebody about Pride in Azeroth tomorrow. So it'd be a great time to tune in. If tabletop RPGs are your thing, you can check out As the Dice Roll, where I'm part of the crew of Cautious Optimism. You can also find me as Silky Raven on Twitter, Twitch, or Instagram, and over at the GGW Discord at girlsgonewow.net/Discord. girlsgonewow.net/Discord. There is a channel for ESO chatter in that Discord and lots of other general gaming chat.
And you can find me, Shanty, on Twitter at Shantyman Gaming. You can also find me on the Girls Gone Wild Discord, joining in the ESO chatter and gaming chat, and a whole gaggle of other gaming Discords. Feel free to say hello if you happen to see me online. 10th Divine is 1 year old. We'd love to hear some of your favorite memories from our first year. To encourage participation and celebrate the occasion, I'll be giving away 2 4-packs of Crown Crates on PC, with one winner chosen by Raven and one winner chosen by me. To enter, share your favorite moment from our first year with us on Twitter using the hashtag 10th Divine Anniversary. Winners will be revealed in our next episode. We will be back in a fortnight with another lovely chat about ESO. Bye.
Bye.